This is the story of how a British invention helped end one of the most devastating wars the world has ever seen. Arguably saved millions of lives and changed warfare forever.
I'm not going to lie to you. This has been on this roundabout in Lincoln for about 5 years. I've been past this 50 times and I've never seen it. Have a look at it. It's the size of an house. You can't miss it, can you? As it says on the sign, Lincoln, birthplace of the tank. Yeah. And this year is the 100th anniversary of the tank being a success in a battle situation.
To mark the centenary, Lincolnshire local Guy Martin is planning something big.
So what we're going to do, we're going to replicate one, we're going to get it running, and fingers crossed, we're going to drive it on Remembrance Day, November the 11th. 11 o'clock on November the 11th.
Guy has just 5 months to build a 30-ton tank from scratch. He'll use the very latest computer design technology.
This is brilliant, this.
The cutting-edge manufacturing techniques of a British engineering giant.
OK, that'll be good.
Yeah.
And the self-taught skills of an enthusiast in Norfolk.
I just love British history.
Along the way, Guy will learn just how tanks first made an impact on the battlefields of northern France.
You have just to imagine tsunami of tanks.
Tsunami of tanks.
Tsunami.
Come on, happy.
He'll learn what life is like in a modern tank.
Oh, mate.
And in recordings made before they died, he'll hear from the men who built and crewed this groundbreaking British invention.
You got thrown about a bit, but the chief thing was the heat. And the engine fumes, you had to be tough.
Without the tank, they would never have won the bloody war.
This, without question, is a massive undertaking, the biggest job to date.
For Guy, the project starts with a trip to the battlefield where tanks first made their name.
In France, on the site of the Battle of Cambray. A massive point in the First World War, massive point, that I knew very little about. I think I'd maybe heard at the Battle of Cambray, but yeah.
This memorial bears the names of those killed in the Battle of Cambray who couldn't be given graves.
These are the ones whose bodies they couldn't find. Bloody hell. Is that right? 7,048. Now that's a battle, isn't it?
To learn why this battle and the role tanks played in it was so important, Guy's meeting up with local hotelier and amateur historian, Philippe Korczynski.
You know everything about the Battle of Cambray.
It's my passion for history and my passion for the area here.
That passion started when Philippe was a child growing up around Cambray.
At that time, there was no video game, there was no computer. So you go in the fields and in the woods where all the traces of the war, they are still there. Sometimes you can find a shell, sometimes you can find a helmet, sometimes you can find a bayonet. This is how I came to the story of the Battle of Cambray. I learned that here was played an amazing battle. And this battle will change the way of doing the war forever.
The plan was to build the whole attack around hundreds of tanks. To explain how, Philippe drives Guy to the heart of the battlefield.
Right, so go on, where are we?
We are right inside the last trenches of the British defense system, which face the no man's land. So which means we are in the front line. This is the front line. And the Germans were just on the front of the corps you can see here, and their line was all along this.
While the small town of Cambray gave its name to the battle, it was never the objective. The objective was to smash the German defences with a surprise attack just where they'd least expect it. At the heart of the most formidable 100-mile section of the Hindenburg Line.
It was an amazing system of defense.
Constructed the previous year, the line began with barbed wire.
The barbed wire belt here was sometimes 30 yards, a gap, 30 yards, a gap, 30 yards, a gap. It was an enormous system. And the barbed wire was sometimes high like that, sometimes high like that. And between the barbed wires, there was machine gun posts. So
You've no chance.
no chance.
Then there were 3 lines of semi-permanent, well-defended trenches. The Germans thought it impregnable. But they hadn't reckoned on tanks.
Why a tank was designed? It was designed to cross barbed wire. Why a tank was designed? To cross trenches. So that will be the job here, to secure, to make a head bridge into the enemy line. That will become the spearhead of the action.
The plan was to use tanks in massive numbers. 375 fighting tanks would lead 6 infantry divisions into battle, and behind them, ready to exploit any breakthroughs, the cavalry.
5 divisions of cavalry, which represents the whole of the British cavalry, something like 30,000 horses.
30,000 horses?
The whole of the British cavalry was for Cambray, and that's 30,000 horses.
Honestly? That's not,
yes, it's amazing.
The attack was to be a total surprise.
It was kept very secret. We moved only at night time. There was no firing beforehand, no artillery preparation at all.
You have just to imagine that the line of tanks, to be correct, it's a tsunami of tanks. A tsunami. It's not a wave, it's a tsunami of tanks.
Tsunami attack.
It was a tsunami which starts on the left here to the wood you can see in the distance here. And that is a line of something like 8 kilometers. And all that line was filled with tanks.
The tanks crewed up and started rolling 10 minutes early, so that by 0 hour, they were already crossing into no man's land.
So we are now leaving the first part of the British position. And that was the starting of the artillery. The 1,000 gun opened the fire now. It was a storm of steel which fell onto the German position. And it was an amazing sight.
Don't forget, when you're in a tank and in action, you don't hear the barrage. But, oh, you can see the trees going up and down from the big heavy guns from the back. I never seen anything like it.
We are at the moment inside the German barbed wire. And so we are really in a very dangerous position. And the machine gun was probably doing their best against the tanks, but that was not enough because the tsunami of tanks were quickly on them, and most of the people who were making some resistance were just crushed or flattened by the tanks.
All the Germans are doing at this stage is panicking.
Yes, most of the trenches were crossed in a couple of minutes. The progression was absolutely fantastic.
Yes.
We can say it was a triumph for the tanks.
The Hindenburg line was broken in just 2 hours, and by the end of day 1, the British had advanced an incredible 5 miles.
We took as much ground in 12 hours as took 3 months at Passchendaele or Ypres.
The Tank Corps paid a heavy price for success at Cambray. By the end of day 1, 179 tanks were out of action. Most had broken down, but around 60 were lost to enemy fire. D battalions suffered the worst losses of the whole tank corps around the village of Flekier. However, one of their tanks, called Deborah, didn't stay lost, because 79 years after it was destroyed, Philippe found it again.
One day, I met an old lady, and she said to me, "I know a place where a tank is buried." I said, "No, that is not possible." She said, "Yes, yes." But this old lady, she have started my love story with one particular tank.
For 6 years, Philippe searched for the tank.
It became like a drug. I was determined to find a tank. That was my mission.
Finally, he pinpointed the spot where he thought it was buried in a field south of Flekier.
We got the permission to make the excavation, and that was in November 1998. And after 2 hours of digging, suddenly the crane catch something. And when we check into the bottom of that hole, we noticed that there was a rusty part of something. This was a tank. And that changed my life forever.
Do you want a hand, Philippe? Do you want a hand? Oh, bloody hell. That's the one?
That's the one. All the others have disappeared. Some were back to England, some were used by the German, and this one stayed in the village.
100 years old. What would I have been doing in the first? Well, I don't know, I like a bit of risk, so probably had my hand up to get inside a tank. Someone's nicked the clutch out of it. There's half the gearbox smashed up. But the sounds of them, it was dead unreliable. So I do like a bit of a challenge of trying to fix things and get things going, so I'd have probably been in there with my spanners trying to get the thing going. Just think that was made 100 years ago. Just think the technology that it's taken to make some of the bits. Look at the thickness of it. Look, the shell holes. Look, there wouldn't have been much worse off in a bean can.
The holes on the side where the shells went into Deborah may be quite small, but when they exploded, they tore the other side of the tank apart.
Look at it. Just destroyed. Yeah, I don't know if I'd want to be in there going into battle. I was having a look around the tank and then I was looking at the picture of the commander, Second Lieutenant Frank Heap. And Philippe says, oh no, his grandson's staying in my hotel. This wasn't TV, you know, he said, no, he's staying in the hotel. I'll give him a ring, see if he wants to come down. So, yeah, Philippe made the phone call and down comes Tim. Now then, Tim.
Hello.
How's it going?
Great. You're looking at my granddad's tank, I see.
Yeah, this fella here.
Yeah, this chap.
How old was he there?
He was 23.
So, go on, what happened to your granddad then? They got stopped here. 5 of the crew were dead inside.
Yeah.
3 of them got out, one of them being your granddad.
Yeah, they'd been in that tank for 5 hours. You know, all they could see was out of these slits, otherwise they'd be shot.
Yes.
And they'd come through 3 layers of the Hindenburg lines. So,
yes.
you know, it's not bad, is it? So, oh, let's just have a stretch. And as grandfather got out, about 30 seconds later, bang, bang, and you can see the shell holes, tank's blown up.
Oh, right. Oh, so it wasn't that the tank was blown up and then he got out.
He was out.
He got out for a jimmy or for whatever.
Yeah. Now, after that, grandfather then got the remaining 2, so 3 of them through the lines.
So what medal did he get for that?
Military Cross.
Military Cross, right.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Proud, eh?
Yeah, oh, yeah, very much. You've got to be, yeah.
At Cambray, tanks proved their effectiveness. And it was the battle plan trialled there which was used with increasing success the following year. Starting with the Battle of Amiens, tanks played a key role in the 100 days that brought 4 years of fighting on the Western Front to an end. 18 million people had lost their lives. But the invention of the tank had arguably shortened the war and prevented the carnage from stretching on for many more years. Having now seen a World War I tank in the flesh for the first time, Guy is more determined than ever to pay tribute to the machines which changed the course of the war and were invented just miles from where he grew up. But building his replica is not going to be easy.
This is the biggest undertaking to date, and it is nearly July, and the memorial is November. That's a lot of work to do.
Discover the past with exclusive military history documentaries and ad-free podcasts presented by world-renowned historians, all on History Hit. Watch them on your smart TV or on the go with your mobile device. Download the app now to watch everything, from the gripping story of the Band of Brothers to Operation Barbarossa and D-Day. Immerse yourself in the dramatic stories of this remarkable era by signing up via the link in the description.
Today, Guy Martin's at the Norfolk Tank Museum just south of Norwich to meet Steve and McKay.
Gear in here, isn't there? Steve?
Yeah, over here.
Now, boss.
All right.
Nice to meet you, Steve.
And
I'm
you.
Guy. Steve's the man when it comes to restoring tanks. What's your trade?
Self-taught mechanic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fair play.
I started when I was 10 or 11, rebuilding vintage tractors, and then when I left school, I started rebuilding military vehicles.
How many tanks you got all in all, then?
About 20 vehicles on site.
20. Are these all British?
They are, yes.
All of them?
Yep, I just love British history.
Guy wants to build a replica of a Mark IV tank.
We've got the engine manual, and we've got a couple of blueprints.
the type which fought in the Battle of Cambray 100 years ago.
Where do we start?
We've got to make the hull first.
The hull?
Yep. Rhomboid shape.
I don't understand rhomboids. Oh, right. An oblong on the slosh.
The body shell alone will require over 10 tons of steel to be cut, shaped and riveted.
Obviously, we've got to get tracks to go around the outside. We've got to have rollers.
OK.
I think the tracks are pretty keen because, you know, they're not like a modern track on a modern vehicle, so if they don't look right, people are going to say, oh, they've not done it right.
Stephen's main role on the project will be making the tank move.
Need to get an engine, gearbox and back axle.
Right.
Driver sits at the front.
That's it. I like the look of that. Yeah, that's almost like me. Are we putting any guns on it?
Yeah.
We'll have guns on it, haven't we?
We've got to have guns on it.
Which guns a tank had determined whether it was male or female. Male tanks had 2 6-pounder cannons and 3 Lewis machine guns. Female tanks had 5 Lewis machine guns. While no decision's been made yet on what sex Guy's tank will be,
Right, we'll go and have a look at the engine then.
Stephen has already chosen its engine.
Yeah. 6-cylinder, Rolls-Royce, petrol engine, B60, 130 brake horsepower. So I'm going to whip the head off and have a look inside.
It's not what was originally used in a Mark IV, but there are no working originals left on Earth, and they were unreliable engines anyway.
This is one I bought 25 years ago. I paid £100 for it. It's been sitting in a crate, it's brand new, never ran. We're now going to bring it back to life. Very Rolls-Royce.
What Stephen wants to do is use an engine that's similar to the original, but crucially will be much, much more dependable.
Tidy, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, brand new valves.
Yep.
The Rolls-Royce B60 was a type of engine designed for the military and used in a number of armoured vehicles in the 1950s.
The weather's got to it a bit. There's a bit of damp's got to it.
Yep.
Looks like it's been to the moon and back, but it's not. Brand new engine. Yeah, it's all for the job.
To get the power from the engine to the tracks, Stephen reckons they can find almost all they need at an agricultural salvage yard, just down the road from his museum.
That's the green one there, I think, is the one we're looking at, Guy.
Right. Steve found this digger that we can nick a proven back axle and differential and gearbox out of. Looks a bit tired, doesn't it? Done thousands of hours in that, so we're going to nick it out of that, bolt that to the Rolls-Royce engine with the clutch in between, get all that working, and then build around that, the tank like that. Simple as that. Should we say she'll start?
Yeah. I will use the magic spanner. Are you ready?
Yeah, go on.
It's a cheap, but we're using exactly the same as what they used years ago. Like they selected a back axle, a gearbox from a lorry, adopted it and put it into the tank, because they built these vehicles from nothing.
That's all right, works a treat.
Yeah.
All the gears are there, high and low works, reverse works. Job's peach.
Next stop for Guy is Staffordshire, and the headquarters of one of Britain's most successful engineering companies.
Where's JCB? I said Rochester, but it's not Rochester, it's, how do you say it, are you? Roster? Roaster. Roaster, yeah, you say roaster.
It's a hell of a spot, isn't it?
In 22 factories across the world, J.C. Bamford Excavators Limited produce 80,000 machines every year.
80,000? I know, you wouldn't think I had to ask that 3 times. How many? 8,000? No, 80,000.
Now they're going to build the hull for Guy's tank. And Martin Molsom, Chief Engineer in Experimental Products, is the man in charge of making it happen.
We wanted to get involved in this project because it's the innovation of the Mark IV tank from a century ago. It's just a great British manufacturing story.
Replicating that 100-year-old innovation in just a few weeks is a massive ask for Martin and his team. Luckily, though, they've been given a big helping hand. And ironically, it's come from Germany.
I'm Thorsten. I'm a 20-year-old physicist from Germany.
Thorsten Brand, a young lad, very, very German. I suppose he would be with a name like that, wouldn't he? Yeah, he loves making models.
I've been a modeler since I was a child, and over time I realized that the model kits available on the market are just not good enough.
Thorsten now makes his own models from scratch. And when he decided to make a World War I tank, that became his biggest project yet.
In the past few years, I've been working on a CAD program of the Mark IV tank. I had so much fun doing research.
Working from photos and measurements, he has created a near-perfect 3D computer-aided design, or CAD, of a female Mark IV tank. And he's given all his data to JCB, so Guy's tank will be a female.
That saved us a load of time, and it would have made this job a right lot tougher.
At JCB, Torsten's CAD was handed to design engineer Tom Beamish, who, using the company's advanced computer technology, has spent weeks turning it into something even more extraordinary.
We got Torsten's CAD model, which was fantastic, and it was a historical representation of it, but we couldn't then take that and manufacture it with our processes.
Right.
So what I had to do was take the design plate by plate and then convert it into something that we can then manufacture with laser cutters. And so what we've done is we've maintained it to look exactly the same as Torsten's model from the outside, but there's a lot of little secrets that we've put into it.
Go on, tell us one.
All of the welding, for example, is on the back side of the plates. None of the welding is visible externally. The rivets are mock-ups of rivets.
All fake rivets. And for what reason? Why not rivets?
Because we weld them.
Right.
For heavy equipment, for steel work, welding is definitely the new technology, which has come along and taken over from the old riveting.
Torsten's original CAD data had all of the external surfaces, but none of the internal surfaces.
Yes. So we've had to put in the inside, the structure.
Obviously, you can't go inside it.
See what we can do.
So if you want to pop that on, and then just get comfortable with it.
Yeah. I put that 3D thing on.
We'll just stand you there for a second.
Yeah. What's it called? What did you call it? VR? Oh, it's right good, isn't it? Virtual reality headset.
So if you step to your right a bit, and then so you're looking at the front, that'll do
I'm not hitting out, am I?
No.
You didn't see what I saw.
You can actually see the tank in front of you there.
I can't see my hand, mind. No, I can see the tank. You can see what I saw. This is bloody brilliant, this.
You keep coming to the left.
And there's just the tank stood there, and I could walk round it.
The doors are opening.
Oh, I opening the doors, yeah. I could go through the latches, get inside it. You can see right up the gun barrel.
Yeah.
It's all here. I could climb out, I think. I'm going to the right or the left.
If you keep on going, that's fine. Yeah.
To the left. Watch my head on that thing, I'll smack my head on that. That's it, I'm out now.
Yeah.
All right, I'm not going to hit you out. Yeah, great system, really impressed. Hey, this is the future, isn't it? Why are we building the tank? I think it's important to remember the people that died in the First World War. I mean, there's like 18 million that died. The tank, yeah, great British invention. Yeah, it was designed and built initially in Lincoln, here in the shadow of the cathedral, which is only, what, about 25 miles from me.
It was in the White Hart Hotel, just a few yards from Lincoln Cathedral, in a room now known as the Tank Room, where two engineers changed the course of a war. And Guy's been doing a bit of homework.
War was at a bit of a stalemate. Trench warfare had taken hold. Look at the bloody state of that, eh?
By the start of 1915, many people had reached the conclusion that the only way to break deadlock in the trenches would be using some sort of armoured vehicle. In Britain, the concept had a very influential champion.
The boy was Winston Churchill. He was First Lord of the Admiralty. He's been off the pies there. Churchill started listening to these officers that were saying, look, we need some sort of armoured vehicle to get over the trenches, something to get over the barbed wire.
In February 1915, Churchill formed the Landships Committee to develop an armoured vehicle for use on the Western Front. By June, the committee had awarded the contract to design and build a prototype to an agricultural machinery company in Lincoln called William Foster & Co., because they had extensive experience in building vehicles which worked on rough ground.
And I suppose that a benefit of it being in Lincolnshire, it was sort of out of the way, and it'd keep the job secretive.
The two men charged with creating a weapon to win the war were Foster's boss and chief designer William Tritton and renowned engineer Walter Wilson.
This is the room where they came up with the idea of the tank. Yeah, they'd just be working away, coming up with ideas, chucking any bad ideas on the fire, and then taking any good ideas back down the road to see what they could come up with.
After just 3 months, in September 1915, they had built the world's first tank.
There we go, Little Willie. It was flawed, top heavy, wouldn't go over trenches. But it's, you've got to start somewhere, haven't you? You're not going to hit the nail on the head at the first bite of the cherry. So that would be more time spent in here. And there we got to Big Willie. It's like a goat or a dog in the background.
Big Willie became the Mark I, which went into production in February 1916. And that became the first ever tank to see combat. At the Somme on September 15th, 49 tanks were available, but only 30 reached the British front line, and only 8 reached their final objectives.
So that was a massive failure, but it scared the out of the Germans. As it would do. What else? There was nothing else like that. Nothing else.
Despite the problems, the Secretary of State for War, David Lloyd George, saw the potential of this new weapon and confirmed an order for 1,000 tanks. Production of Mark IVs at Foster's and other tank factories around Britain went into overdrive. At JCB in Staffordshire, work on turning a 3D computer model of a tank into a real-life metal one is now well underway.
Back when they originally designed the tank, it doesn't seem possible what they did back then, really. It's advanced stuff, it was cutting-edge stuff at the time. You know, using angle iron, cutting the steel, everything was punched by hand with big presses.
For Guy's tank, everything is cut using a 4,000-watt laser, capable of slicing through 15 millimeters of solid steel. The tank's body is being made in 5 sections. The centre hull, 2 rhomboid side panels, and the 2 sponsons, which slot on the sides and will house the machine guns. After just a few weeks, the centre cabin is already taking shape.
You get an idea of how confined this cockpit would have been.
Yeah.
Next job, finish the rhomboid side panels.
Got to do a bit of welding. I like a bit of welding.
Guys working alongside expert welder Chris Shenton.
You're coded, aren't you?
I am coded, yes.
Yeah, so when you don't know what that means, do you? Yeah. He's coded. Yeah. Right, that means he's not a messer. My missus is having a kid. Right.
Right.
Well, I suppose really it's mine, isn't it? Right. And it's a girl. Girls are better at welding, so I'm going to get her the youngest coded welder, so she can teach me.
If we can get just a bit of a puddle in that one.
Yeah, OK. Oh, that zips it out, doesn't it? Hey. Some juice in that. Some juice. I definitely wouldn't want your electric bill.
No.
Welding done. The first full side section of the tank is now finished.
OK.
The first time we saw the full side together, with all the rivets in place, it was just a fabulous moment. To be able to see that, and it just looks incredible.
Now, some weight. What you reckon? There's a ton there. There's a ton. But just look at the rivets. How well finished off they are. The detail, just the detail on it all.
Yeah, big job.
I think it is. Bit of my welding on it. I'm far from saying the back's broken. Definitely not. But the ball is rolling. And November now seems a long time away. When we left Cambray, November seemed so very near. So yeah, I'm excited. It's happening.
One Mark IV built in Lincoln is on display at Bovington Tank Museum in Dorset. Excellent, never saw combat in the First World War, but was made fully operational again in 1940 to serve with the Home Guard in Southsea when a German invasion of Britain appeared imminent.
Right, yeah, so here we are, outside the Mark IV. We're going in. Going in, you see? It seems a bit cosy.
Each Mark IV tank had a crew of 8, a commander and a driver up front, 4 gunners, and 2 gearsmen who operated the gears for each track on commands from the driver.
I think you felt as safe as houses in a tank. I never experienced any fear in a tank. Never. I quite enjoyed being in a tank.
Well then, it's not as cramped as I thought it was going to be.
Hang on, let me get it off for you.
Right, so this is the starting handle.
For the starting handle, there was 4 chaps got hold of it, and I took a bit of humping around in cold weather.
I can imagine when that grabbed hold, yeah, you'd be dealing with a few broken arms. What's that there? This is the water tank. Is it an oil tank? I mean, I suppose it's warm enough in here now. Without it being in the middle of battle, without that running.
The chief thing was the heat from the engine fumes.
I was gassed with carbon monoxide fumes in the tank.
There was no extractor fan.
What? Oh, look. Can you see this? If it was going over a trench, that's what this was for. If it was going over the trench and there was someone underneath them, just shoot them. Just shoot.
When we was in the trenches, if we saw them coming, there was always to cheer. Because they absolutely put the fear of God up the Jerrys. And that's no joke, because it did me when I see them.
They used to advertise in the likes of motorcycle newspapers because they needed people with a bit of mechanical knowledge to be able to keep these things going, and they were bloody unreliable old pigs.
On the first day of the Battle of Cambray, 375 Mark IV tanks swept through the German defences, changing how wars were fought forever. That first day had cemented the reputation of the tank as a wonder weapon and helped the Tank Corps become a permanent fixture in the British Army. In 1939, the Royal Tank Corps became the Royal Tank Regiment, and in the Second World War, they played a crucial role at El Alamein and were first across the Rhine in 1945. To find out just how much tanks have changed in 100 years, guys visiting the Royal Tank Regiment at their barracks on Salisbury Plain.
Well, there's the then and the now. The then being the Mark IV. So we wanted to see what's now. What is the British military's current tank? It's a Challenger 2.
The regiment operates 52 state-of-the-art Challenger 2 battle tanks, each one costing £4 million.
It resembles a Mark IV in the way that it's got tracks, loads of metal and guns. That's about the only resemblance.
Guys joining the crew of a tank called Argyle from Ajax Squadron, under the command of Lieutenant Matt Winters.
We're hugely proud of our heritage being the original tank unit and still being the tank regiment. We've never done anything else. We're the reason these things exist. No one else wears black coveralls. It's just for our regiment.
Oh, right. So, well, you call them coveralls. I don't want to call them overalls. Anyway, whatever.
We were the first tank unit ever, so we're all clued up on the Mark IV and what it did.
The regimental badge still bears an image of a World War I tank, and their colours are still those flown at Cambray.
From mud, through blood, to the green fields beyond. And that's what we've got on our shoulders. And we have it everywhere. We have it on our rank slides, we have it on our tanks, absolutely everything.
How long have you been on the job?
About 3 years now.
Right.
Yeah, so 3 points of contact.
D35's driver is Trooper Alex Williams.
I've always wanted to be a driver. And I buzz off it. It's the best seat in the house. Hold it down to start.
You're right.
Yep. So there we go.
Yeah, 1200 horsepower engine. So we're not too worried about Euro 5 and 6 emissions rating. Some rattle off that, isn't there?
Yeah.
How fast will it go?
You can get it up to about just over 40.
Yeah.
Which in a 62-ton tank is more than enough.
The 150 square miles of Salisbury Plain that's owned by the MOD is the largest military training area in the United Kingdom. And that makes it the perfect place for Guy to experience what a modern battle tank is capable of.
Go! Up to the mark, boy, come on.
Was it what you expected? Fast, comfier than I expected.
Get the speed up down here and stuff. again for us. There we go.
You got to say the terrain that we was going over.
Go for it, go for it. There you go.
I felt a tank take off into this puddle.
Come on. That's it.
Got drenched, stagnant water, and then up this hill that it just got up this hill.
Hey, go for it.
You know, you'd struggle doing that on a bloody Land Rover. Never mind a 62-ton tank.
You can live in that tank for as long as you need to.
Yeah, the boys will spend days in here. Well, you couldn't spend days in a Mark 4, could you? You'd die of carbon monoxide poisoning.
And mentally, it's insanely demanding. At the same time, compared to what they went through, 100 years ago, I think we've got it pretty easy. We don't have carbon monoxide going straight through the turret. We've got air conditioning, we've got a crew heater, we've got a kettle, most importantly, so we can make tea.
If you want to confuse the enemy, you've got your smoke generators that fires neat diesel straight into the exhaust.
Take off.
Bloody amazing.
Spot on, mate. We're going to have to give these a spray in the wash down.
Yeah.
You can get involved if you want. Yeah, I like a bit of cleaning, mate. We're all right for that.
I'd love to have Guy in my crew. I'd probably have to smarten him up a little bit. His sideburns would probably have to come up and he'd have to get a haircut. Probably stop him talking. There's moments when you need everyone to be quiet, but I tell you what, I'd want him definitely. He'd be brilliant.
At JCB, the massive effort to construct the tank's hull is nearing completion.
Aye.
With the sides and belly now welded together, the tank's loaded onto a truck for a 5-hour journey to the Norfolk Tank Museum. This is the first time Stephen has seen JCB's extraordinary work.
It's amazing. Bloody amazing. Totally mind-blowing. It is. I'm speechless.
Next job is to protect the bare metal by painting it as soon as possible. Within hours of it arriving, the hull is sandblasted to roughen the metal surface so that the paint will stick to it. Once the blasting is finished, Stephen and his team must apply the first coat of paint before anyone goes to bed. A couple of days later, Guy arrives for his first look at the finished hull.
Well, it looks like a tank, doesn't it? In not a lot of time, really.
The whole tank is just amazing.
Yeah?
I keep wanting to come and stroke it.
Stephen's also made a lot of progress with the drivetrain and reckons the tank's engine is ready to be started up for the very first time.
You've obviously, this is TV, you've had it running before.
No, I haven't. No.
That's what I like. This is proper.
Yeah.
So genuinely, it's not been wound over, it's not had the oil pressure
No.
up, it's not run.
No.
So when this runs, hope, fingers crossed, this will be the first time it runs. So right, we've got that, this in TV. This is right. I like your fan belt. Bit of baler bind.
Proper farm fan belt.
Fan belt, noted.
The problem with doing things for real, though, is that they don't always go to plan.
Not a lot happening there. This is good though, this, you know it's not made up. But this is all part of it. Yeah. This is all part of it.
The tank may be starting to look like a tank, but there are still hundreds of crucial small parts to make. Doors, latches, handles, hatches, chains, gun mounts. The list is massive. Taking on the job of producing all these parts is Chasted Engineering in Letchworth, a company more used to working on top-secret prototypes for automotive and aerospace companies.
You wouldn't believe what goes on. I mean, we can't talk about a lot of it. It's an amazing place. We're here for a load of bits and bobs, really. But the main thing is we want the original track plate.
Go down, perfect.
All right. Not a 5-minute job.
The track plates are what the tank runs on, and Guy needs 90 for each side. Each plate is shaped from 12mm thick steel, using a press exerting 800 tons of pressure.
Some energy to be able to do that. You know, it's enough of a job now. What was going on 100 years ago, I don't know.
A 5-axis laser cutter carves out the plate.
12mm plate, yeah. Yeah, you're nearly going through it as quick as you can write.
And then Guy hand welds the finishing touches.
Spot on.
Every single one of the hundreds of parts being made here has been painstakingly converted from Torsten's original computer model into separate machinable components. Only then can they be made real. Justin Sedgwick is the man at Chasestead who made all this happen.
The periscopes. So wherever there's a slit in the tank for them to look through, to save them directly looking through and maybe getting shot, they had a couple of mirrors in there so that they could look in here but actually be seen out through the without the risk of getting shot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I see that.
It's good, isn't it? 11 of these on each tank.
Oh, it's more than, isn't it? It's more than the icing on the cake. Just hold on a little bit, you wouldn't be right without these bits.
Yeah.
Back in Norfolk, attempts to start the engine continue.
Hey, keep going. Whoa. That's it, that's playing her out.
On a more positive note, the gun sponsons are fitted, using a hook designed and manufactured specifically for that one job. The finished track plates are bolted to the track chain, which is then wrapped around the tank. And eventually, with some parts replaced, the engine starts. The tank is really coming together.
Massive steps since we was here the last time. What's changed? Well, the engine's in place, the gearbox is in place, chain the sprockets, the controls, the seat for the drivers. There are loads of that in every area. It looks the part.
And today, Guy's hoping to drive his tank for the very first time.
Right. Steering department. These are just brake levers. So if you want to go right, you pull the right-hand lever. That'll stop the right-hand track, and then the left track will pull us round, and vice versa.
For the first drive, the decision's been made to leave the roof off, allowing a quick escape route in case of fire.
What are you thinking?
What am I thinking?
Yeah.
God help us.
Tom and Martin from JCB will also be standing by with fire extinguishers. On board, a minimal crew of 3. Stephen operating the brakes, Guy operating the throttle and clutch, and Chris from JCB on gears.
Right, you ready?
Yes, go for it.
That sounds a dream, doesn't it? Doesn't it? That's some rasp off it, them molten pipes. Sounds like a Lancaster bomber. Clutch down. Clutch down.
It sounds good, but now the moment of truth. Will it move?
All right, more red, just a little bit. Oh, was I was smiling, yeah. It's just all noise and mechanical and racket. It was great, I love all of that. treat, doesn't it? That sounds a treat. How good does that sound?
That's absolutely brilliant.
Look at Chris, look at Chris, look at a smile on his face.
Absolutely brilliant.
And it ran a treat. Ran a treat, no bother at all.
It's been a long journey, and
Yeah.
to bring it out of that shed and hear that engine running really is phenomenal.
What a piece of kit.
Yeah.
Done well, that went well. Very, very pleased.
Yeah.
Nothing's gone wrong yet.
No.
Shall we try and mount one of the riveters in here?
After a very successful morning, the team decide to celebrate by mounting the replica machine guns in the sponsons,
Watch your fingers, mate, you got it.
just so it looks that bit more finished.
It's amazing, that's it.
Next on the agenda, turning.
You tell how much energy Stephen's got to put in to get the thing to turn.
All right, full red, yeah, just a little bit.
And you even got to pull the levers out of the floor just to get the diff to lock up on one side to allow you to make a turn. It felt great. And then bang.
Stop! Kill the track. Kill it.
Yeah, I've got it. They broke him.
Something's gone this side here.
Yeah. What do you reckon there?
It's ripped all the bearing out completely.
Well, the remains of the bearing are down here. Oh. Hey.
Bearing's gone.
Smash the bearing.
The tank's drive axle is connected to the tracks via 2 chains, which turn a large sprocket. This in turn moves the tracks. The problem is with that sprocket's bearings. Bearings are mechanical devices which reduce friction between moving parts, in this case, allowing the large drive sprocket to turn smoothly. Unfortunately, these bearings just haven't been able to cope with the forces involved in moving a 30-ton tank. They've disintegrated, and the sprocket's been pulled 2 feet out of position.
He's done some damage in there.
This is what the bearing should look like, and this is what's left of it now.
Obviously, a chain's as strong as the weakest link. All that power going into the one track. And rather than turn the track, it has just pulled the bearing out because that's the weakest link of the chain.
It was going brilliantly. Absolutely fantastic. Today was the test to see if everything were taken. Obviously, the 2 bearings each side are obviously not up to the job, not man enough.
After months of work, this is bad. But until they take the whole side of the tank apart, they won't know just how catastrophic the damage is.
We've just got to try and wrestle the drive gear. Well, that's going to be easier said than done because that's been in there 3 weeks now and been built around. So you've got to try and undo 3 weeks' worth of work to try and get to it.
There's obviously a solution out there. We've got to find out what the solution is now.
We're in Cambray. Weather's not great, is it? This is the first place the tank was a success in a battle situation. We're in the middle of the battlefield. Where it all set off from, really, where the lead commander gave the lead tank the flag and said, right, get cracking.
Last time Guy saw his tank, it was broken.
We didn't have a minor problem. What's the word? It was catastrophic.
Catastrophic bearing failure.
Right.
I'll let Martin explain.
Yeah, go on.
It was the bearing that went, and it didn't do any other damage other than that bearing.
Yeah.
So what we've done, we've made a new housing out of billet steel.
And this is specifically for this,
custom
right?
unit now. The capacity on the bearings is now 6 times what it was.
Right.
And then belt and braces job, we've supported the new bearing with an additional 25mm plate.
Is that welded into place?
So it's
then?
welded into place
How'd
on
you
the
get in there with a
inside of
weld?
the hull. It was tight, but the guys have done that.
No messing. And how much work's he done since then?
It's done about another 100 yards.
Another 100 yards?
Yeah.
So we're still going into the unknown today, I like that.
Guy missed out on the tank repairs because he became a dad.
I was waiting for the phone call, sort of on standby. Anyway, so since then I've had no involvement, just, yeah, my missus had young and 23rd of October. I have got a picture. She's called Dot. She's called Dot. Hang on. Where is she? I've got a new phone. Ah, there she is. Look, that's Nigel, and that's me holding. I'm holding Dot. Nigel is not impressed. Nigel just packed his bags, and he's tried leaving a couple of times. She looks like a little monkey. She looks beautiful. She's obviously the best girl in the world, but yeah, got the welding torch in her hand. She doesn't really know what to make of it yet.
This is now the most accurate replica of a Mark IV tank ever built.
Right, stop her.
It's great to see it all painted up with the roof on, all the hatches, exhaust. Great.
And she's been given the crew number and name of the battered original Guy saw here on his first visit to Cambray 5 months ago.
Deborah's still here, isn't she? The original Deborah, so we've got Deborah too. We've named her Deborah too. I think that's quite appropriate. Very fitting.
The plan is to now drive Deborah 2 across the battlefield. Then, at the 11th hour, on the 11th day of the 11th month, to stop and observe a minute's silence. Guy's brought together all those who've helped him over the last 5 months, and for some, today's the first time they've seen his tank.
Nice to meet you, Tom.
Nice to meet you too.
Nice to meet you. You've done some work.
You too.
From Germany, Torsten Brand, whose computer design made this whole project possible.
And you was 4 years drawing up all the little components. It's just an amazing job. You've done an amazing job.
Yeah, and now it wasn't for nothing. It's really awesome.
You're happy?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
It was an honor.
From the Royal Tank Regiment, Lieutenant Matt Winters.
It's astonishing looking at it, and that's what, that's what our predecessors went to war in.
Wow, 100 years ago.
Yeah.
From Cambray, Philippe Gorczynski.
Wow. That is my favorite name for a tank. She make a nice homage to the #1. Amazing.
And from the family of Deborah's original commander, Tim Heap.
100 years ago, my grandfather would have been somewhere around here preparing Deborah to go over there, and it's secret.
I think the front of the tank, it's really beautifully done.
There's just over 3,000 rivets, and there's not one rivet doing a job. They're just there for the look.
Yeah, I know, but it looks good.
Yeah.
The color is superb. Every detail seems to be there, so I am really impressed. It's absolutely perfect.
Guy will drive Deborah 2 north from just outside the small village of Beaucombe. From here, Colonel Hugh Ellis, commanding officer of the Tank Corps, directed the attack from his tank called Hilda, named after a favourite aunt. At the very centre of the line, as part of H Battalion, Ellis personally led the whole corps into battle. 100 years later, it's time for Guy's crew to recreate a small part of that advance.
Stephen and I, up the front, doing the driving. Chris, the first bloke we met at JCB, doing the gears. Matt, yeah, he took me out in the Challenger too. Master man. No better man to point us in the right direction with a bit of tank aiming. Young Tom from JCB, and with a Torsten in there as well. Justin Chasted. Then Tim and his granddad was in Deborah.
Right, we all ready, guys? All right.
Yeah, when it fires up, there's some power there.
Right, you ready?
Didn't want anything to break, so I knew what the consequences would be if it did break. And engine revving going on. Very mechanical in there. I like it.
As
as you're going forward, it's okay until you steer a little bit, and then you can hear the chain slack, then pop, bang.
100 years ago, the amount of adrenaline that must have been going through you, because you'd have been the first thing that the enemy would see. They'd be shooting at you, aiming at you.
Just to see the tank just on the top of the ridge like that, it looked fantastic.
And to think of the 375 in a line, 6 kilometres long, would just be unbelievable.
For me, it's very emotional.
With her journey over, friends, families and locals get to see Deborah too up close.
To do this in such a short space of time with such a great team of people, yeah, it's really special.
From nothing to that in 5 months is amazing. Absolutely amazing.
It's all happened. You just think, oh yeah, they're the right people, they know how. It's all come together. It's bloody great.
I looked across the battlefield and I had the view of where Grandfather was, and of course I closed my eyes and thought about him very, very much.
To remember the people who did make the ultimate sacrifice 100 years ago, it's the right thing to do.
Something I'll never forget. Something's going to live with me forever.
We did the minute silence, very fitting. Time to think. From Cambray, now it's going to the Norfolk Tank Museum. You've got to go see it. Yeah, you see it with your own eyes. It's all right seeing it on television, seeing pictures of it. You know, you've got to see it with your own eyes. They're pleased with it. A tribute to the tank and an honour to do it on Remembrance Day.